Hi everyone, and welcome to our daily show, The Big Story, where we discuss the hottest topics of the day right here in the heart of the newsroom. My name is Alyssa Wu, and I'm coming to you live from the Straits Times. We are streaming live right now on Facebook and also on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, do subscribe to our channel and be notified whenever we go live by clicking that bell button. I'll be joined very shortly by my newsroom colleagues, where we'll discuss the topics that got you talking today. Now, climate change was one of the main topics covered by Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong in his National Day Rally speech on Sunday. And to follow up on that, the Straits Times will be putting out a special package on climate change tomorrow. How climate change affects Singapore and what Singaporeans think about it. To share more about what to expect from this upcoming package, I have Audrey and Vanessa here with me. Hi both.
Hi.
Hello. So can you tell us briefly what this package will cover?
It consists of a poll, two main stories, and a commentary.
So maybe a bit more about the poll. Maybe you can tell us about it without giving the figures away.
Okay, so basically we want to find out what are the attitudes of Singaporeans towards climate change after Prime Minister's speech. And we asked them questions such as, well, first of all, did you watch the NDR speech? And are you familiar with the speech, the part of the speech where the PM talks about climate change? What are your, is climate change a concern for you? And so what's the main takeaway from the speech that you have? And one of them, or rather the majority of respondents actually said that their main takeaway was that Singapore is vulnerable to sea level rises.
So they are aware of, at least of climate change, right, and how it impacts Singapore.
Yes.
So roughly who did you poll?
We polled, we tried to get a diverse demographic, so across race, gender, and age group as well. Yeah.
Okay. Audrey, I understand there's about two main stories in the package. Can you share what the stories are?
So one of our main stories would be about the poll that Vanessa was talking about, and the other one would be on how experts were reacting to PM Lee's focus on engineering feats as a way for Singapore to tackle with sea level rise. As Vanessa mentioned earlier, a lot of the respondents found sea level rise, like they took, one of the main messages they took away from PM's message was that sea level rise is an issue that threatens Singapore, and rightly so, because according to an international panel of scientists, sea level rise is expected to go up by 1 meter in 2100, which is not that far away. So in his speech, PM Lee highlighted how Singapore was planning to deal with this over the long term. So he cited a figure, $100 billion investment over 100 years. And among the strategies that he laid out include things like carrying out empoldering. So that's a kind of land reclamation technique along East Coast, which is one of the parts of Singapore most vulnerable to sea level rise. And another thing would be reclaiming a series of offshore islands on East Coast. He also talked about how PUB was looking into building a second pump house opposite Marina Barrage, and the pump house houses pumps, which pumps water from the reservoir out into the sea. So when this happens, it kind of frees up room within the reservoir to contain rain when it falls into the city. So basically, the empoldering and the reclamation of offshore islands in East Coast are considered kind of major engineering feats. So we spoke to some experts and got their input on what they thought of that. So the main takeaway from that was that they said yes. So Singapore is very, very vulnerable to sea level rise. So we have to look at a whole series of options available to us. Engineering feats like what PM Lee shared during his rally speech. These are options that are very viable for Singapore, but there are also alternatives to consider as well. Things like using mangroves and natural ecosystems as a buffer. But as PM Lee highlighted, these are not engineering plans that he shared. These are just ideas that the government is exploring. So I guess we just have to wait and see.
So aside from rising sea levels that we need to be careful about, there's also the issue of rising temperatures. So how does Singapore plan to combat the rising temperatures and keep the city cool?
Yeah, so while sea level rise is a long-term threat, rising temperatures is something that all of us are already feeling. So there is this project that's ongoing now by a couple of universities here. It's called the Cooling Singapore Project, and in it they are researching various ways of how to cool Singapore without necessarily turning on the air conditioner, which actually contributes to the global emissions. So some strategies include things like looking at urban greenery. Urban greenery would be things like your green walls and green roofs, and that could help lower temperatures. things like installing water features within like a development, or things like using light-colored building structures and all that as a way to reflect heat. So these are just alternatives, these are just ways that Singapore is looking into to beat the heat.
Now, why do you think Singaporeans should care about climate change and the special that's coming out tomorrow?
I think beyond building defences such as seawalls and polders, right? I think we can, as consumers, could think about what we can do to help fight climate change. What I gotten from my interviews with the men in the street is that the uncles and aunties will say, "I'm just an uncle. I'm just a housewife. What can I do?" You see, let the government do the job lah. Let the government do this, and then the government will be like, "We can't do everything. The businesses have to try. The businesses have to try to cut down pollution," and then the businesses will say, "We can't do away with plastics." The uncle and aunties will complain. So actually, it comes out of it. Consumers do have a responsibility, and we do have we can effect change with our actions, and that's what I hope PM raising this alarm in NDR speech can actually send a message out to Singaporeans to do that. Yep.
Thank you. Audrey, do you have anything to add on, or you more or less agree with what Vanessa has said?
Yeah, I just have a little bit more to say. So, I mean, I've been reporting on the environment for a few years now, and some feedback that I got from my friends, from readers, is like, it's just the environment. But I feel like climate change actually goes beyond that. It's no longer just an environmental issue. It's related to things that are actually keeping us alive, things like our food security, our water security, even if you don't care about plants and animals. So, I mean, to me, I just feel that, dealing with climate change is just a way to keep all of us alive, us and our future generations alive. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Audrey and Vanessa, for sharing about it. You can look out for the package on straitstimes.com tomorrow or in the papers.